Hello, Wade Cox here, and welcome to the Ski with Wade podcast. I've been involved with this sport of water skiing for over 40 years now. I was fortunate enough to be a professional, and now I'm a full-time water ski coach. Today's guest and I will be talking about water skiing. We'll also be talking a little bit about travel and maybe a little about life as well. Thanks for joining us today. Ski with Wade, Cutmore Road. Hey guys, welcome to a little Wade's World today. Ski with Wade podcast with one of my childhood besties, Jim, the Cannonball Clunie.
Wow, what a week it's been having you up here. And I don't know what's been better, the kids skiing and watching you do your thing, or say in the evening when it's about happy hour, 5, 6 o'clock, and then the stories start rolling around here.
It has been quite.
It hasn't stopped.
It has been quite the week, guys. We're in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Jim's childhood province. Yeah. We are in Canada, and so it's just been a real pleasure for me to be here with you and your family. So I can't thank you enough.
Oh yeah, and I think it's been just a blur. Like you got here a week ago, and it seems like you got here like 5 minutes ago. And it's like been so good being in the boat and watching the kids just roll like 5 sets a day, just kind of how we were.
Yeah.
You know, when you're coming on and really feeling it and getting introduced to like different level of everything, and the kids are just so happy. It's stuff they're going to remember for 20 years. So.
Well, cool. Let's talk
40
about
40 in our case.
Yeah, or 40, right? Exactly, because we'll talk about when we met soon. But let's talk about Jimmy's accomplishments. If you guys didn't know, 5-time national Canadian jump champion, 5 Moomba Masters jump titles, and if you don't know water skiing. The Moomba Masters is one of the greatest water ski events in the entire world.
The greatest.
With the largest...
If you ask me.
With definitely the largest spectator. It's unbelievable how many people show up on an annual basis now for, 30, 40 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got to get into that later.
Yeah. So maybe you're one of your greatest accomplishments, 2-time gold medalist for Team Canada. You guys brought home the gold, took home the Americans.
First 2 times.
Took them down twice, right?
Yeah.
And then since, it's been an ongoing...
Yeah, I think the moods are shifting now, though, from watching the juniors. I think there's some other countries sneaking in there. But yeah, that was a huge thing that, the skiers I skied with in that, and Steve Bush, the coach, like that's... a thing that was worked on, as Canada, had a plan and a program and a progress thing to take steps to be able to challenge that, which Australia got very close in the 87, 88, 9 worlds. And then to be right there, a part of it, at the time. And it really changed water skiing in Canada from the support we got as a national team. And, and I think it was a launch pad for a really, really, really strong, program to support the national team and international caliber skiers that has endured now for what the heck, 30 years.
Yeah, we'll actually come back to this because sort of all your career worked up all the way, with Steve Bush, and now he's retired as well. So and then maybe a standalone accomplishment, without a doubt. First Canadian to go 200 feet. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, that was... Yeah.
6th all time.
Mm-hmm. On these...
Yeah, so we have some relics back
right
here.
Yeah.
And so we were in trial and error mode back in the day, right?
Yeah, this was 1992, and which I want to talk about later, the influence of Jeff Carrington. But, I got, sponsored by O'Brien in 1990, 89, 90. And then that was my first, didn't know anything about different skis. You just grab whatever Sammy was skiing on, and or Jeff or Mike Hazelwood or whatever. Then that was the length it went to. And then we got this O'Brien deal. And at the time, Bob LaPointe ran the plant in Sacramento that Jeff would tell me all about. And then I got on my first trip there, and it was, okay, we'll try this. And I mean, they weren't as drastic in size changes, but, you know, with the side cuts and the bevels and stiffness and stuff like that, it was just such a special time. And then, like, took me to a different level, but also the confidence of being supported.
Right.
And being around, like, that's Bob and Chris LaPointe. Like, it's, you know, Jeff Carrington, Andy Maple, like Camille Duval. It's like, oh, like, I don't even. Like,
well, which, for the record, is still the best team poster ever.
Yeah.
It's the O'Brien. You weren't on the poster, but nor was I, but I'll own it. No,
I was on the second one, though, in the cowboy.
No, that's exactly it, because that first one, I still see it everywhere I go. And I'm like, man, I'm bummed. I want to be in that poster, right? So hey, we're going to come back to a couple of these items, and then we're going to go some more. But first of all, check out our new merch. Jim's rocking our new hoodie.
Yeah.
We got them in different colors. We got baby blue. We got white as well. Thank you guys for all voting on our Instagram for our new logo with the palm trees. Kind of went retro. We got baseball caps, trucker caps, stickers, towels. So please check out my website, skiwithwade.com. You can also check out any of my old podcasts. And it's super cool that Jimmy called me up ages ago and he goes, man, I want to be on one of your podcasts. And I was like, you actually listen? So I was like completely pumped. But yeah, my Ski with Wade tour dates are up on my website as well. So anyway, maybe, just maybe, you'll meet some of these guys we have been ski with wading this week. But let's talk about
that's a few years away. But
yeah, let's talk about
taking big steps here. Yeah.
So you and I met in Florida at Jack Travers. Then it was called International Tournament Skiing.
ITS, yeah.
And so tell us about your first memory of when we met.
Okay, so I'm just had my 16th birthday, which was January 15th, 1985.
Which is mine is December 15th.
Yeah,
so
a month apart.
I've always been 30 days ahead of him and 30 centimeters maybe as well. That's sort of the same.
Give or take. And so anyway, I got this. I was just like a local, you know, regional or maybe national, you know, ranked junior skier. And then it was boys division. Now it's U17. But I had this little window, great parents that, you know, love water skiing, but they gave me and my brother everything. So we had this chance. I'd been to ski schools a few times, but I was just learning, you know, at the thing. So we got into a program, Wade and I, at the same time at ITS, you know, Jack Travers, Leilani Travers. So we actually became, well, Jack and Leilani were our guardians, and we started at Leesburg High School in grade 10. You'd call it 10th grade. But anyway, late January of 1985, and it was snowing almost.
And I had actually we had both already visited, correct?
Yeah,
You'd already been there, and I had already been there.
My first
that was your first time, because I'd already been there the summer before.
Yeah.
But you'd already been to Liz Allen's.
Yeah, been to Liz Allen's, and then my parents were talking to Jack and Leilani, and they go, well, there's only been one other skier that's done that, and his name's Sammy Duval. Oh, okay, heard of him. But there's this other guy, Wade Cox, that's transferring schools, and he's going to try. And it was a kind of a trial and error thing, I think, for them as well as like.
Yeah, we had to make our grades. We had to like make curfew, which. Yeah,
there was.
We mostly made curfew.
Like your room for error was tight, and you know, because it was a great opportunity for us, and then that was sort of like late January, and then the weather got a little poor in February, and then my next memory of that, like, is just okay. Now we're 16, just driver's license. The ink's not even dry on it. Driving the ski school vehicle. We rode the school bus to school, but it dropped us off right at Jack's Main Lake Honeycut at the time. And then ski school is not that busy that time of year. So I always think, like, you know, your skiing and my skiing, because we had Jack to ourselves for the most part at 3:00 when we got off the bus. The students were kind of done, and it was Jack, like, full attention. You know, that's a huge part of it. And then stability of Leilani had food on the table. You know, lunch, we had to make our own lunch, but that's a life skill that you keep for your life.
We had to do our laundry and do all our chores for them as well. Like we're already doing full work chores.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And part of the rotation, we just
didn't know how to do our laundry.
Yeah, like, it was a learning process.
And then I remember it's about about a month in, maybe early to mid-February, me and you get off the school bus, and you know there's a little more activity coming down the lane at Honeycutt. And I'll never forget it. And we look in the dock, and it's like Sammy Duvall and Mike Hazelwood training for Moomba with a modified boat path. And I was just like, and both of them are in all their gear, right out of the magazine. You know, Sammy with the O'Neill Mastercraft Kidder skis, Mike Hazelwood with the Connolly. And, you know, in those days, I swear, maybe it's my memory, but they still sat 40 feet apart in practice because those were the two main dudes. And then it was like that angle you had from the lake. We were watching each other jump. Like I was going like 100 feet. You were going like 120. And then the odd guy would come. He was going 130. And these guys are just flying like 200. And like seeing that live for the first time is like I still got bumps.
Right.
And they were training hard, and you know they were skiing with Jack, and it was like that was the place to be, you know, for the coaching, but also for the guys you were skiing with. And then it just went to a different gear, like from kind of that day on in my mind.
Right, and then I went to Australia that spring of '85 when we met. And then I had already met, who'd worked there the summer before, Brett Thurley, Mick and Karen Neville.
Yeah, all the stars.
Glenn Thurlow, who the first guy to go 200 feet ever. So we were there as 16-year-olds with all these superstars that were coming to train. So
Sammy popping in 2 days a week. You know,
so it really was absolutely nuts for us to be just these. We were both middle class sort of.
Well,
I'm from Arkansas.
You're
from
two different classes.
No. But as
juniors.
far as well, like where we grew up, and then next thing we're here, and these are first class, world class skiers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so Wade goes to Junior Moomba in '85 and dominates overall you won all three, maybe.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that because it was the last and only time I ever did that.
Junior Moomba in those days, there was no Junior Masters, there was no Junior Worlds.
You're
there was
correct.
No junior tournaments.
That was the junior tournament in the world. You're correct.
And then Wade's parents scraped the money together to send him. And anyway, he comes back. I won slalom, I won jump, and I won tricks. And then, so if you picture it, we're in the same bunk beds. I liked the top, he liked the bottom. And then it was like, okay, lights out, 10 o'clock. And then it was like Wade for 2 hours. Like, man, you should see the way Jeff Carrington comes off that ramp. Like he goes Andy Mapple in the rough water. He went through it like it's glass calm, Jim. Like, I don't know how they do. Like, so we'd be back. I'm just listening, but it was sort of like, that was our 2 or 3 years of just going shared experiences in the bunk bed, like going. And then I remember in our bunkhouse, Waterski magazine would come out, and it was, wow, Camille Duval there, you know, Dina there, you know, new picture of Glenn Thurlow, like new ad here for this. And it was like, we lived it, man. Like it was no other focus. And we both were in other sports leading up to that as kids, like we've talked. And then it was like in that 3-4 months, it's like, man, I'm in one sport.
Yeah. No, it was sort of an easy
and it's a cool one.
choice. You dropped hockey, I dropped basketball, and it was like, no, I really don't want to go back. This is exactly what I want to do. Yeah. And then, so let's talk about this fall. The World Championships are going to be at Jack Travers.
Oh, yeah.
And at Sunset Lakes it'd be maybe the only time the World Championships has ever come back to a return site.
Yeah.
But during this is going to be the 50th anniversary for the ski school that not only we met, but all these other people in the world. Was for 50 years now we're sharing the same story, Jim, right?
And don't forget, my dad dug 3/4 of it.
Well, that's my next.
There's a lot of history there.
Yeah, that's my very next note. Is not only did your dad and your little brother Richard dig lakes, we planted trees, we cut grass, and then I found that a couple years ago when I moved, I cleaned out my lake house out at Robert's. I was cleaning out the ski shack, and I saw a high school graduation picture of your family and mine. They were all there together. So I thought, wow, that's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah, so the big 50th for ITS, as we call it, I'm not sure the new generation knows, but they're going to know, is an idea that came about, started by Brett Thurley, we call Wade. It's like Kim Laskoff, another big name.
Two-time world champion, Kim Laskoff, and Brett Thurley, world slalom champion. All are, Jack Travers disciples.
And, I mean, the list, like we're talking about a list of who's who. I was there 2 months ago. You want to see who's who? Go there. Yeah,
just go watch one morning, early afternoon, and you've seen.
Same as it's been for 50 years. And, I think anybody that has had anything to do with the sport obviously knows the history and the background of Jack and Leilani's contribution, and now Chris and John's, obviously. So we had this opportunity. The Worlds is coming there. Wednesday of the Worlds is October 11th. Not like the busiest day in the world schedule, but then after that, forget it. So we got this party planned, and it's at a restaurant called Ski Beach.
Where we grew up skiing on Saturdays and Sundays, right? It's kind of crazy, right? Yeah.
And Jack let us use the boat once or twice on a Saturday or Sunday to go out there and try and land a flip in front of a bunch of girls. But I think you landed one. I don't know if I ever did, but
very few.
So it's going to be
not enough.
Yeah, and I think I met with Jack and Leilani about it, and it's like, okay, what do you want? What do you don't want? And then Leilani's like, I just want to make sure anyone that wants to attend can not just walk up, and that's how we're kind of structuring it. So, October 11th, we'll probably start hanging out there about 6 o'clock. And
so come on down, Ski Beach, Leesburg, Florida, standing room only. Come and join us.
The whole place booked.
Yeah, no, we can't wait.
Like 400.
It's a super cool place. I mean, with lots of history right there.
If you get a chance.
So before we move on to some serious stuff, let's talk about one of those days when we got off the school bus and you were going to go first that particular day, and you tricked. so Jimmy goes to do a flying dog start, we call it, right? So right when he and Jack's driving, right when he goes to step off, I step on
Jack wasn't driving.
Was he not?
Or you would have had a black eye.
Or
it was one of the other dudes like Neil Staples or one of the other guys.
So I step on the back of Jimmy's trick ski. Of course, now the trick ski,
and I couldn't feel it,
stays on the dock when he catapults, and then. So he didn't give me a black eye, but he gave me just a tongue lashing, and
he's too big.
And so we were sort of laughing. Plus, I'm running away from him up the beach. So anyway, there was a family there that witnesses, and they go and they want their money back. They've paid in full for like a week or two. Yeah. So now we've used foul language in front of their children. Yeah. So that was really our lesson.
Straight out of the Bible Belt.
Because.
Saved for years for ski school, and now they're ready to pull the pin.
That was really our first and last real, like we made minor mishaps where maybe we missed curfew, but we didn't miss work. We didn't not fill the boat up. We didn't break things. But we certainly held our language.
Oh yeah, and then it was. Come to the principal's office. I won't get into any details, but we're in Leilani's office, and there was no ambiguity on what was going to be.
I still remember how nervous I was walking in there, going, man. we're going to have to call our dads now, and we're going to get our walking papers, and we're out of here. So we survived it. Yeah, just use that, Jimmy. Little technical issues on a heavy mic here. So let's talk about now how where your first tour event was, and how that transpired.
Yeah, and I'm sure because we talked about it the other night. And anyway, at the time you needed a tour rating of 175 feet, and then you could enter. And it was like a Sunday tournament. I don't know I think it was at Jack's, but it might have been at McCormick's. I went 175, and you were already skiing the tour by, almost a full year before. But 1988, and then Wade, we didn't have cell phones, but you'd heard, or maybe you were, like, I can't remember the things, but he's like, you're coming next weekend. We're going, like, here's where you send the entry. Here's the cheapest tickets. Yeah, and you can room with me and Carl. Because that was a big thing about it then.
Because those days you had till like Monday at 5.
Something like that.
Right? So if you qualified on the Saturday, Sunday, exactly, you drive. Yeah. Eventually Scotty Ellis's mom did it. Lucky Lowe's mom did it, I think, before that. And man, you were driving down there off 27 to drop your entry fee off in hand.
Yeah. And then, by not prepared for like pro level jumping. Like, I'd been at 6 foot, like, for an hour before going to the thing. And then all nervous. And then Sammy that week, so I'm getting ready it was in Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse, New York, Lake Onondaga, one of this massive public lake.
So I'd got to go to the Orlando stop and as a spectator, and just, I couldn't believe the scenery, the Coors Light things, it was just all happening. And then it would be televised, 10 days later. And it was like, I'm actually going to one of these things. And then we we got there. But I remember a couple days before, Sammy happened to be skiing at Jack's. And anyway, so we're, not training I'm not even in his league. But he knows who I am. And he's like, he's just giving me survival tips. The boat doesn't go back at a nice, comfortable pace on the tour.
No, it was a show.
Whatever you do, don't ask for a re-ride, because, then everyone's going to, you'll never get one in your life.
Then you're blacklisted. Exactly, yeah.
And then just all those tips. And then he's like, good luck, son. I'll see you in a couple days. But it was, So I made the cut, my first one. And then... second one was in Mexico, and then the third one was in Lansing. And then that was a great sight, huge crowds there. And then, so that was the first step up, and I had to go 15 feet further than I ever have to make the cut, and had a huge crash, broke my ankle. My only ambulance ride was right there, but that was okay. Like I tell the kids, no, you can't climb a ladder from the bottom to the top. You got to do it one rung at a time. And
didn't I ride?
I tried doing it 2 at a time.
Did I ride with you to the
ambulance? Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone else was still jumping.
Oh, and And then Bruce, now that one goes, and Bruce Neville was obviously a later seed. Anyway, he tells a story later. He goes, I'm pulling out for the 600. And the sirens are going off on the ambulance as they're trying to get on. So I think he didn't ski that good, but he blamed me.
So obviously way before cell phones. So it was a scary time. But so Jimmy, let's talk about that though. So you guys being jumpers would have later start times.
Yeah.
Slalom skiers, we would typically have an early Friday, maybe even early Saturday. But even our Sunday starts were 1 o'clock. We were always the first event after the opening ceremony. So we would get there maybe 10:30 on a Sunday. What about you guys rolling in at 1:30 to maybe watch us, or you've just missed us? And tell us about the people and what it was like.
Oh, and that was the thing. I always like getting there early, but then we always had to have 2 guys. If ideally 3 guys would travel together to split the expenses of the rent-a-car and the hotels, and meals and your plane tickets were your own. But I remember Indianapolis, St. Louis was another one. where it's like, okay, you're going to get there at noon as a jumper because you're skiing maybe 2:30 or 3, and you got the special parking thing. Those 2 sites jump out, but it happened more than that. Shreveport had happened. You got the VIP parking, but guess what? There's so many people there. Like, you're back on the road halfway back to the interstate.
No, you wouldn't.
Your 3 vent bag.
No, you wouldn't.
But kind of pumped about it because it's holy shit. There's 10,000 people here.
No, you're exactly
more,
yeah.
you know?
We would see you guys walking in. The same with the late arrival spectators, because the old days Coors Light, they'd like bring your own cooler in.
Oh yeah.
And so you just people ditching their cars in people's neighborhoods, just walking to the lake. Yeah. It was unreal.
Yeah, but then and then like as a jumper, you know, obviously it's pretty risky business. And like Freddie said, it's a contact sport. But, you know, you get there you're excited for the crowd, but the trees are bent over because it's a roaring wind from some direction. And it's like, it's water you wouldn't even think, you know, today it wouldn't be skied in, but it was like there. It's like, you know, but then the nerves are just like, I can't really explain it. Anyone that's done it, you just, holy cow, every nerve in your body's fired.
Yeah.
And then to try and get refocused for normal, like, set of tournament jumps on 6 foot, you know, it was like, that was such a valuable skill that I didn't even know, I didn't think I was that good at it. But later in life, it's like you can calm the storm, focus, you know, not panic and get it together. But it was like such a sensory overload. You know what I mean? And then at Moomba, it would be like times 8 to me, you know.
Moomba or Marine World.
Yeah. That's in my career.
Yeah.
You know, Masters was great, but it wasn't the same. You know, like it's got the history and the pavilion, you know, and the other thing, but it doesn't have the crowd and the, you know, the history of, you know, great performances in the jump event anyway.
Yeah. So let's talk about right in this transition when I was a little bit earlier to the Pro Tour than you, but
because you're a month older.
Yeah, no. So then we both decided, hey, we need to jump out on our own. We couldn't work for ski schools and riding a boat 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So we rented.
And in Jack and Leilani's defense, they couldn't have us there doing something and then leave Thursday.
Right, exactly.
Leave hanging Thursday.
Leave Thursday at lunch,
and maybe not be worth much on Monday.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So and they were sort of trying to almost get themselves out of that precarious situation.
Needs,
right.
Yeah.
And so then we took off and we went to Pearly Race Lake, and we had it all set up, and then the lake went dry.
Yeah, bought a jump, put a course in. I think you had a boat. And
then
it was like a drought in Florida, and then it's like bent a couple props on your boat. It's like plan B.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Which we talked about was my big thing that happened.
Yes.
In my one thing. If I ever had one, which was early in the year 1989, that happened to us, so we had to go figure it out. And then Jeff Carrington, I went over there and skied with him for 2 days, and then I forgot to leave and moved in with him in that cabin at Club Red. And that was he was like, I don't want to, I'll get choked up if I talk about it, but like the effect he had on me was, we were similar guys. Like, he came from a working class family, so did I. You know, he wasn't that tall or, you know, extreme amount of natural talent. So I get there and it's like he would train at 30 years old or 29, like 5, 6, 7 sets a day, 3 sets of jump, 6 foot. And he's like, he didn't ride me or, you know, but he's like, man, if you want to be anybody, like, you're nobody right now. But you only got one track. And so it was train hard. Yeah. And then he ate well, went to the gym, didn't drink like during the week, didn't have, you know, much for distractions other than golf after he'd skied 6 times. Yeah. And then, you know, he's just such a powerful influence that, you know, such a tough person that, like, I think he really did it the hard way, talent-wise, you know, worked for everything he got, and then, but he shared everything he had. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, use this. He probably opened up a sponsorship with O'Brien that might have cost him a few bucks. But he's like, we're, such a good thing. And then, then the tragedy that happened, the next year in 1990.
Yeah, like June of 90. Yeah.
And I'm a young guy, would have been.
We were 21.
19 or
yeah.
20, yeah. I'd never had anything that happened to me, and to anyone close to me. And it was like, holy cow. And, but got to hang out with them about 5 years ago on vacation, and
so if you do, it's just those of you that don't know Jeff Carrington, he had a jump crash. He was going for a distance record doing a stunt, basically.
Yeah.
And he crashed at the end of a pier, and it altered him. He became disabled, we would call it.
Well, he had a head injury,
yes,
and he had scar tissue that developed on his brain stem that affected his motor skills. But he's 100%
right.
Jeff Carrington. But his speech is impaired.
Speech and mobility. Brain, sharp as a tack.
Yeah,
so all of us at one point have had super cool conversations when we've got to see him with Dallas. And so it's been...
and then, that other, just to talk about Jeff a little more, the kind of guy he is then I went to my first Moomba, and training for that, I had an awkward fall.
So what year was your first Moomba? 91?
90. Yeah. And anyway, I had an awkward fall, and the water caught the tail of my ski and flipped the tip right into my face. Busted, I needed a big surgery. But then he looked after me. It was done in Brisbane. I stayed at his house for 3-4 weeks before I could fly.
I remember your eye looked like shit. You had blood all in it.
Yeah. And then, and then we were pretty close. And then I think he knew I was tough, so I was worth his time, kind of thing. He wasn't the type, if you weren't going to be tough enough, he ain't wasting his time. Go somewhere else. But, so, that was probably, looking back at it now, all those years later, he was just a different influence on what it took to be, a legitimate pro, paying the price, putting the time in, in the difficult conditions that we had to get ready for. He'd been doing it already for a few years, and just kind of told you how it rolled. So it was, just can't thank him enough.
Well, before we move on to another couple items, there was sort of not long after that 90 Moomba, you did your first 200. When was your where and when was your first 200?
So it was 1992 Moomba.
Okay.
And then you won a car for first. So it was there'd been only 5 guys before. Glenn did it in, I think, 83.
82.
Yeah. And then
Hazelwood, Duvall.
Hazelwood, Sammy, Jeff, then Bruce before me, and then me. So, and It was, what a moment. It was the scariest thing you could imagine, on those wobblers. Last jump of the finals in Moomba, way over 100,000 people. Live TV.
100,000 in live television in Australia on a national holiday. It really, really is impressive.
Well, and the when you're watching jump, I think the leader, because I had guys seated later than me, the leader maybe was in the 180s or something. I can't remember all that the way you can, and then it was my last jump 202, and I can holy cow, I know I'd never been that far in practice, and it was okay, make the landing, because I'd missed some, and skied out, and then it was and then when they turn around and go back down the river, I'm looking sort of in a daze, and I think every person on the river was standing, at least in my memory, and then it was the distance comes out, and I just couldn't believe it, and then all your buddies, even your somebody that was next, maybe Bruce Neville or whoever, was just, jacked up. Nervous,
no, I think that's one of the greatest things about water skiing.
I do too.
But about men's jumping, it's even greater, because there's such a danger factor involved that everybody shares in the same. Yeah.
Oh, and it was, so then, yeah, so that was a big step. And then that same year in 92, I think everybody knew that, you had to take a step because Sammy was there already. Bruce wasn't far behind. And if you're even going to be close, like you're going to be laying it on the line. And at that time to go like 200 to 210 feet was like on these little skis was like pretty sketchy.
So let's talk about what was coming up that spring. And it was always a huge event on the calendar, still is.
Yeah.
But the U.S. Masters.
After a 2-year hiatus because the
that's right. It was in 91. There was a little mini recession.
Yeah, and then 92 was back.
Yeah, 92 was back.
We never skied there.
I had actually skied in 90, so I had one round there, and it didn't go good.
Yeah.
Nor did my go here. I actually did okay in 92, but let's talk about what happened on the Saturday afternoon because
Friday, the cut round.
Oh, well, it was you guys' first round.
Yeah.
So as slalom skiers, traditionally, after you're done, you either go get your lunch or, like me as a former jumper, I want to watch these guys.
Yeah.
So I sit down on I guess it's the south end of the pier.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you guys at the end, you guys are landing.
Yeah, and way down on that pond.
Yeah, and I remember just sort of getting my fixation. I think you were first or second.
And no familiarization.
No, none.
Like
none.
Me and John drove up there. Like we couldn't take it. We were in the house in Leesburg at Jack's there, and we both knew we were qualified. And it's like, I think the cut round was on Friday, but anyway, we're there in skiing our best we've ever skied. Like train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then me and John are like, having. The afternoon, not doing anything. And it's like we couldn't take it and we drove. Like we got, 90% of the way there. And then the Thursday before we skied, like we're on site at like 7:30 in the morning just to look at and we drove around that road. Yeah. And it's like, there's the pavilion. Like it's right out of a magazine.
And it really is. If you haven't been there, you have to go at least once. It's a bucket list water ski trip to drive in the front gate and drive around that lake. Yeah. And then you see the pavilion on Robin Lake, and then you hear of all the history. Yeah, it is a unique place.
And then I'm first off the dock. Because I think at the time there was only 5, 6, 7 jump, and it's still similar.
They would typically maybe take 8 guys for a 4-man final, give or take.
Yeah, so then I'm first, and the course record is like 188 or something. And anyway, I go out first jump, I don't know which jump it was, but I go 196, and everybody's just going wild. And guys that have skied there, like Carl, and I think Bruce was like, holy, like I can't believe you could, because it's rolly, and it's uncertain.
It's really rolly. It's really deep, first of all, and then half the lake is seawall, so the waves...
It takes all your courage.
Yeah, the waves bouncing back, and the fact that they don't dissipate because it's deep. Yeah, it's a sketch place to ski.
Yeah, it's not dangerous, but it takes 100% of your courage, and I love it for that reason. Because whoever wins the Masters in men's jump, it's like, I know you were looking into the black hole. You know what I mean? So, and anyway, I wound up like damn near last place. Everybody that went
you got footed for like 5 skiers in a row, right?
And then Jarrett broke the world record.
Yeah. 207?
207. Yeah. Sammy had it at 205.
And you guys were kids. Like there's you, Jared, and Swanson were all
23.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but yeah, so that was the best performance I ever had and missed the cut. But
no, it's still talked about because every year, if you make the trip up, as men jumps qualifying is starting, someone will get, man, you should have been here for the 92 semis because it was that impressive.
Yeah, and to end in a world record and like everyone else sniffing around it.
Yeah,
that was a cool event, and and I got to go there I think 5 more times. And it's just one of those special places of, with the history and all that. But it's like it's such a rush to actually jump there. That Like, and that's the thing with a tournament set there. Like it goes by and you feel like you're out there for 10 seconds and you're done. And it's like, I forgot to breathe, like, but I actually got, I think I was out third place twice there, but to some pretty good company back in those days. Yeah.
So let's talk about your titles. It's very skewed at the top of your pro titles.
Yeah.
Almost every single one of them came at Moomba.
Yeah.
So let's explain that. Like the maybe the scariest place in the world to jump outside of Marine World, maybe Callaway Gardens we just talked about, but jumping on the river, brackish water, narrow, bad setups, but you had it mastered.
Well, like, and the reason for that was getting back to the influence of like Brett Thurley, Glenn Thurlow at ITS, and then with Jeff Carrington, and like everybody knew about the size of the purse there, but then skiing with Jeff, he would really tell you like he shared with me like close to the rocks on the 600. He goes, it's all instinct at Moomba. He goes, because you got to take what the river gives you and the site gives you and the weather gives you. And I seen it all there.
Because the current can change.
Yeah.
And the current doesn't have a predictability like an ocean tide would.
But a big rain, when it rains, all this storm water from the city's trying to get out into the harbor and the tide's pushing it in. And then that's called a king tide. But it was like, so I got down there, I got injured with my face 2 weeks before, but I was able to ski, and then I jumped 195 or 6 and missed the landing, but like it was like it suited me, because I didn't get as wide as Sammy and Carl, and I had a little different style and a little more like Jeff, but he always did well there. But it was like just the rush of the place. So then in the coming years, I had the success there that made me want to go down to Australia and right after Christmas, because it's summer there. And then like Australia, like I always felt as much at home there as I have here or anywhere in the world. The people at that time, and probably still today, like, the families that kept the sport, vibrant, were like all volunteers, like Ian Faulkner, and the list goes on, Russell Morris. Those guys just put their heart and soul into tournament water skiing in their summer. And so I just kind of got onto that vibe. And after winning my first Moomba, like that was always my focus. Other than a Worlds, like I got to be ready for that one.
I was always jealous, man, because I'd sort of got into school, and then I had sponsor obligations, but man, what I really wanted to do was come and hang out with you guys down under.
And then Brett and Ray Stokes Brett Thurley had a nice thing they were doing in
up in Bundaberg, up in the North Coast.
So I got to spend like 2 full seasons there. Ray was just becoming a good jump coach, and it was an experiment. And then Brett was skiing at his peak. And, so there was the really good couple of years. So I always felt like going into Moomba, and then there was always 2 or 3 other pro events around that. No one was going to be as well prepared as me. Because, so I think a lot of times that has a lot to do with it, like your life, if you're going to school or you got a job and you just can't go there. Because, like, Moomba's intense. Like, Jarrett and I were talking about going down to us, and he came a lot too.
Talking about Jarrett Llewellyn, another
Llewellyn,
absolute wonderful Canadian champion, won
legend.
Multiple worlds and multiple events.
Yeah, they don't give you a legend nickname for nothing. They don't call. I'd like to be called the legend, but so it was like matter of preparation, but it was also like 3-4 weeks. Like we're talking about it here last summer when he was here. Like 40, 50, maybe even more tournament jumps in 3 weeks, like rounds, because all the night jump rounds, then the other tournaments. Like it was so, what a great memory of that country, and all the people, like just how much that meant to me and still means. Like I'm on a chat group with guys we skied together 35 years ago, and it's like, like telling stupid jokes or whatever, but it still, means, it was just sort of, I always say to people, like, I went there 8 years in a row for the summer, and my claim to fame is I got 16 summers in 8 years.
Yeah,
so
right,
that's
right,
pretty
right.
good. Yeah.
Well, I remember one specific thing before we could talk about your training was you flew home. I think you had a family member sick. You just got down to Australia, and you flew home. You left down there, and it was 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And you got here to Saskatoon, and it was 50 below.
Yeah, my elbow surgery.
150 degree
Yeah.
temperature change in 24 hours.
know, yeah.
You said your brother picked you up with like
it's
the
like-
full suit and everything.
Yeah, plus 40 to minus 40. Like, that's a big eye opener. Yeah.
So Jim, let's talk about how much jump training changed while you were training, because before we were pros, people weren't riding their skis and adapting, and then they weren't doing high-speed ride overs.
Yeah, and I think that was, that would have, like, I think that, knowing Jarrett's one of my best buddies, and we still talk, like, lots, and that was sort of, like, in the early 90s, what, like, it was like, you got to jump, 3 sets a day during the week, if you're going to get better, 2 sets a day to maintain. If it's only 1 or 2, you're deteriorating. And now just watching the guys today, it's a whole different approach, like a lot more gym time. Their agility's a way better. We were like a lot more into squats and deadlifts and, getting your legs super strong. But then, it was just, we were right at the start of all that sports science. And I think it was, to watch it now, like with the high-speed ride overs, that crane drill on the jump skis is pretty cool. And then the way they progress. But I disagree wholeheartedly with a lot of skiers I've seen in the last years since my kids have been into it on like full-blown double cut and pass, cutting like their Mike Hazelwood and letting go for a week. And then all of a sudden I'm going to take this thing. And I'm not subscribing to that school of thought, unless you're like a Ryan Dodd or Freddie Krueger. They can do whatever they want. They, obviously, but like for the mid-level up-and-comers, I think your ramp time is always been important, and I think it's just, I always got rusty real quick. Carl never did. We were talking about him, just having a whole different approach to training and preparedness, and obviously it
he was
awesome for him.
I mean, we loved him and we trained there with him, but
you couldn't emulate it.
No, because he could come out and he could run 38 off, trick 9,000 points, and jump 200 feet without 3 to 4 months of practice. He could just first go, and when we were like coming out, missing our first pass, we can't do our tricks. And we can barely ride our jump skis.
I know.
And much less go over the ramp.
Yeah,
so,
and then Carl's like, you guys are skiing too much. You're going to be
what are you doing? Why are you guys doing that? He would even ask us, why are you guys doing those training drills?
Yeah, exactly.
And we're like, well, because we're not as good as you.
Well, exactly. 2 months later, I'm going to fall in a counter cut if I don't, and all our generation, we spent so much time together because it was, like, I remember in 95, I counted 26 pro events, from February ending in the late August, and then it was the Worlds, and then it was like, that much skiing and, intense stuff all the time. Like, that's more or less every weekend with 1 or 2 off, maybe. And then, so you get to know everybody so good, and you actually, even you couldn't have a grudge against somebody if you wanted to.
No, you really didn't.
He might be your ride from the airport.
Right, no, because
if you missed a cut,
and
it's like,
I'll say a bad word, like our Aussie buddies would say, because 1 week you're in the penthouse, the next week you're in the shit house.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you brought that much of an attitude, man, it was karma. You were just setting yourself up for one of the older guys who was just going to go, hey, look at you douche. As you're licking your wounds on the floor.
And a few of the guys that we won't name kind of played that card about I'm somebody. They didn't really stick around long, because that's the thing with water skiing. Like, try doing it by yourself. Good luck. And that's what, these kids, that are here locally, but like kids around the world make such good friendships because of that very reason. Like you need people to ski with, you need people to room with, you need people to help put the slalom course back in, or like nobody wins alone, you know.
So let's talk about that, because I want to go back to this, Jimmy. Water skiing, it's one of the most individualistic sports of all.
Yeah.
And except the World Championships and this team medal, and from the very first
changes.
World Water Ski Championships in
40s.
Where do we need Tony Lightfoot right here?
In the 1940s.
Yeah, 40s or 50s, right? Yeah, 40s probably. So I think the American team had won 21 or 25. Every single one. Whatever it was, they were 25-0, let's call it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's this backbone of the Canadians, Steve Bush, and a few of you and your compatriots, and next thing you guys take down the big bad boys in 91.
Yeah, that was a hell of a trip. And going back the Worlds were in 89 in West Palm, in 87 in London, but the Aussies were knocking.
Yeah.
But then, you know, Jeff had his injury, Glenn retired, you know, Brett and Mick and Karen were still there, but they missed their window.
They lost points.
They
exactly.
missed their window
exactly.
with those legends.
Yeah.
And then so it was like Busher was, really into it. And so as a result, like he was just a volunteer. Like he used all his holiday time. And
he was a fireman, a career fireman.
Yeah.
And a super good guy. I played my best golf after playing with him.
So it started out of, like, he just upped his level of commitment to the national team to the point where he retired from the fire department, I think in about 95 at like 54 years old. But it was like all of a sudden he's calling, like, find a payphone. You know, he's not riding you, but it's like, how are you skiing? What are you doing? Do you need to ski anybody? Like it was constant, you know, it wasn't just, hey, you made the team, let's meet at the Worlds.
No,
and
Jim,
see how good everyone can do.
I was always really jealous. He actually invited me at one point, and maybe around 95, to come to one of you guys' Canadian team training camps at the Worlds, because he liked my influence, sort of my calmness in practice.
Oh, he always did that.
But it was, I was jealous. I just saw the way he, if you had talent, and you had a will, then he was going to find a way.
Well, and then I think in that generation, he had some young guys, you know, Craig, Jarrett, myself, Drew Ross, Matt Reaney, like that were, and there's lots of other skiers behind us that were close to making those teams too. And then a little bit older than us, Sorry Girls, was Susie Graham and Judy McClintock Messer. So like he knew he had the parts. And then we got to Austria and ended up winning the gold medal. And then we repeated that in 93. But it was like, that was always a big part of, you know, what we took a lot of pride in, you know, me and Jarrett and Craig, like all those guys. It was like, so it was pretty cool. And I wish every one of the pros and that was focused on the tour there, a lot of countries didn't have that. You know,
no, man, countries. I'm almost getting like the goosebumps being jealous, because I remember the bond you guys had.
But, and then it morphed into like fitness testing at McGill University, you know, sports physiologists that came from Eastern Europe. And I think, you know, the guy that benefited the most from that is the guy that was the most committed to the fitness, which was Jarrett. Right. And he took that, you know, preparation of his body and everything just to a level, and had, you know, this career that spanned like damn near 30 years at the highest level. Right. And I think, you know, a lot of those steps, like Busher didn't do it all, but he made sure we had access to whatever, you know, it was the stuff that you didn't even know anything about, you know, whether I listened quite enough is a whole other story.
Well, no, exactly. We all had our own sort of stubborn traits, if you will, that made us great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
But my last Worlds was the best. because even though you didn't win the team medal, and I kind of knew it would be my last in 97, but Jarrett won gold in jump and I got bronze. Curtis Shears was in silver, which he was a talent in himself. But anyway, I got a great picture of me and Busher and Jarrett, and like it was, and I think Busher knew it was the end for me too. So it was like pretty cool way to go out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. You told me, because I was being inquisitive, and you'd already had a 217, or you matched it, and I think it was at Vancouver, maybe?
Yeah, that was my last
and then you talked about a couple fellas showing up, and you already had a deposit on a truck.
Well, that's a good story. And I've never told it to Freddie, so here it is, Freddie. I think he skied in the Pro Tour at that Barnett Park in Orlando in 95, just as a feel it out. So anyway, I'm getting, I'm kind of, actually I was top seed, believe it or not. And so but you watch everybody, even if you're slalom, and you don't miss a thing. And then I'm like, here's this kid, he's pretty skinny, but you can see he's in shape, never heard of him, strange name, Freddie Krueger. And then the only time I've ever seen it in a pro event, kid comes down the lake and he's pulling out for a 3/4 cut. And I'm like, you double cut when you're in the show. Like, you don't 3/4 cut. Anyway, I'm watching this kid, and he, little edge in, he's not very late, and poof, kicks the shit out of it. And like, anyway, well, I might have got lucky there. Second jump, poof. Third jump, poof. Anyway, backstory to that is in 95, I won quite a bit of money in Moomba. I think I had $40,000 saved up. And I already had my first semi truck that I bought. And that was enough for a down payment on the second one. And my mom, I talked to her after I left Australia about, I might just keep with this skiing thing, and I don't know if I'll invest in my second career. And I remember within a couple of days of seeing Freddie, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get that second truck, because I ain't going to be keeping up with him in a year or two. So, and that worked out. Yeah.
Well, and then let's talk about that. So it went well for you. You had this fabulous career, but then you pulled the pin maybe a lot earlier than a lot of pros did, and maybe I should have pulled the pin earlier like you did, but you went and invested yourself back in the family business, and it worked out well.
Yeah, and it was come from a working class family, and didn't work. I was skiing most of the year, but all through those 90s, the off season, I would come and work in the shop or the office or drive truck for our family trucking company.
Dispatch.
Dispatch. And then after the Worlds in 97, I got back to Saskatoon to kind of go work for 3-4 months before the next Moomba. And then it was, my mom comes in, wakes me up at 6 a.m. Monday morning. It was October the 1st-ish. And she's like, the dispatcher just quit. I need you to come in and help out here, indefinitely. And then I've been there ever since. So I kind of, I had about a 6-day transition from the end of my skiing career. And I skied a few events in 98 and was my last Moomba. I don't even think my name was even on the standings. And I was like, no, I'm not going to, it was, you couldn't keep up. Yeah. And then that was when the skis were really advancing too, and you really needed to be changing gear and learning all that stuff. So, and I don't regret it at all. Right. Cause I was pretty beat up too, 5-6 knee surgeries, elbow surgery, face surgery, and then now we got 112 trucks, across, states and countries, and people is that stressful? And I'm like, not even close to the stress of the Marine World parking lot on every other year, where the trees are bent over,
and it's only a tailwind. There's 0% chance there would ever be a headwind ever.
Yeah. In 8 years, I seen 5 ambulance rides. Thank God I wasn't one of them. So that was stress. Yeah. The difficult sites, your income relying on it, when it's not going good through the rest of the year. or you kind of run short of money and you're working a job you don't like. And like, to me, that was, but I learned a lot of stress management then.
Life skills.
But more importantly was, I got interviewed for this business magazine about, how come I got successful. And I said, like, water skiing taught me above all how to deal with adversity, because you're faced with it day and night, physically, mentally, equipment wise. It's like every skier, that's at the pro level, or the national level or the regional level that really loves it, it's an emotional roller coaster, and for all of us. So,
and then we just beat the mess out of ourselves, right?
Oh yeah. You're your own worst enemy, and you don't really see that, as you're going through that range of emotions. I shouldn't have yelled at that boat driver. I shouldn't have, done that to my buddy, or lashed out, or, don't call my mom because I'm in a crappy mood. Yeah. So,
which we've all been guilty of all of those. Yeah.
All that stuff is what I think the life skills, I didn't even know I was learning them at the time. You're learning them and learning them quick,
Well, hey, let's talk about last thing. You had the opportunity right out there in the North Saskatoon industrial complex.
Yeah.
To now you guys got a place for your kids to go and hang out.
Well, yeah,
right?
Wade does a good job of describing it, because he's been everywhere. So we're in the North Industrial area, and we got a pond they dug out about 30 years ago, and so we got it's a pretty good lake.
It's a really nice club lake. Absolutely,
definitely ski only, no other boats. Just man-made lake, about 2,000 feet long. So I got phoned about 4 years ago when my kids are starting to ski more. I got elected the president without even being there. So, but there's two guys, Jeff Edwards and Norm Lucas, that really are the backbone of the last 20 years of developing it, and a million other volunteers. So we have a brand new nautique every year, 2 jumps, perfect slalom course. Dorian told me last year it skis as good as anywhere in slalom.
Drivers hired so the kids can come and moms can drop off the kids. It's a world-class facility.
And our goal is to break even, and we get fundraise stuff. So we keep it, the cheapest skiing that I've seen on a man-made lake with a brand new boat and a hired driver for $12 a set is, an accomplishment that I owe the credit to Jeff and Norm for, creating it. No, it's my, my job
their labor,
their
love of labor. Exactly. They provide it. Yeah.
And then, Wade got here a week ago. So we got about half a dozen of our provincial skiers that get, limited coaching. It's tough with the weather. You're not really in the, you don't speak the lingo and all that. So Wade comes up, and I think, we did in 6 days, 75 or 80 sets he was in the boat with. So, and then it's like these kids are all gained like 6 or 8 buoys in the last week, and they're going, and we're saying that only happens once or maybe twice in your life where you take these big steps. So like our, and the jump distances are right there. We've done a good job of discouraging them from tricking, but there's a few of them that want to keep tricking.
No offense, I'm actually, I told this that Jimmy couldn't let anyone know that I was actually coaching tricks, and that I somewhat know what I'm talking about.
And then the worst thing is each kid learned 3 or 4 new tricks this week. So that's, anyway, whole nother story. But, it's just that, level of coaching that the kids have been lucky to get from you. But just the vibe, like your enthusiasm is what makes, it makes the whole experience the most fun thing you do. And you're doing it with other skiers your age. It's just like, that's, to me, like these kids are in their golden age and they don't even know it. But they'll know it when they're 40.
No, they'll be telling these same stories about, hey, remember when we met, and we spent that summer.
So it's been so much fun, and can't wait to have you back next year.
Well, Jimmy, it's just been an absolute pleasure. This has been super, super fun. So my guest, Jim the Cannonball Clunie.
Yeah.
And he is rocking some Ski with Wade gear.
And salesman for the Ski with Wade tour.
So we got these hoodies. We got them in white as well. So go to my website, skiwithwade.com. You can see all of my old podcasts. I'm back in the swing. So I've been harassed enough. I've got lots of new ones. Our buddy Brett Thurley, he's on the list. Christy Overton. So we got a bunch more coming out. So
most northern stop ever?
Oh, yeah, by far.
Okay, right.
Yeah, how far north of the border are we?
400 miles.
Yeah, 400 miles north of the border. So yeah, we only had one night with like a frost, so it hadn't been too bad. But no, it's been awesome.
Couple mornings with a headache, though. I don't know where.
Yeah, well, just quietly. So anyway, Jimmy, thank you so much. We're here in a shop where there's all these old jump skis laying around. It's quite like the history of water skiing here.
Yeah,
so,
right on.
And we've been talking quite a bit of history. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
On. Thanks, Wade.
Ski with Wade. Cut more rope. That's a wrap this week for Ski with Wade podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to email me at wade@skiwithwade.com or direct message me on Instagram or Facebook with any questions you may have. We'll cut more rope next week. Ski with Wade.